Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host and guest, Mr. Ryan Peets. Ryan, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing so good, so good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. Awesome. So, for those of you that may not know, Ryan is an alumni through the Activation Method, the Alpha Reset, and an alumni and graduate of the Brotherhood who decided to change career paths essentially and work with as an advisor, helping other men. Well, just like you guys listening to this right now, because Ryan's been there, done that, and did a complete 180 in a lot of areas of his life. And so Ryan now spends his time, if you ever get on a call with somebody from the Powerful Man because you're curious about the Activation Method or one of our programs, it's always alumni. All of the guys you get on calls with are guys just like you. They're we call them advisors because they really just are giving advice on the next best step. So anyway, Ryan, thanks so much for being here, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Yeah, I definitely been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and it was just such a wonderful opportunity to give back. Being able to meet guys every single day that were sitting exactly where I was, and in that place of, I tell guys all the time, it's never been a lack of desire or effort to fix it. In most cases, it's a what I'm trying isn't working. And, so to be able to meet them where they are and be like, dude, I get it. Like, what made it so hard was I was trying so hard and not getting anywhere. So it's really great to meet those guys and support them forward.
I love it. I love it. So, Ryan, before we hit record, you were bringing up a conversation topic, one that you hear often when guys do get on a call with you. Why don't you push that forward?
Yeah. So often when I talk to guys, again, very similar situation to me is, I, for whatever reason, whether it's time, finances, maybe it's not that bad, whatever it may be, I'm going to wait, right? I'm not going to push this forward. And then honestly, a little bit like insanity, will then go out and do the same things, right? We'll work harder. We'll try to provide more. And then after the first of the year, I have heard from probably a dozen men that I talked to a year ago, and they're still in the same place and still not able to get the results that they want in their relationship. And I'm like, cool, what have you changed? And there's silence on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well, we've all been there, right? I mean, we've all been there in all kinds of areas, whether it be our business, right? Our business, where we have a new marketing plan or something, and at the end of the day, the bank account's the same. Relationships, I've certainly been there in the past. Our health, right? Fitness goals. We've all had that. I'm going to get down to this weight or what have you. So it's a common thing, and you and I were talking about this a little bit. It's kind of the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, if I listen to this audiobook, and audiobooks are great, right? They're great. They have a lot of great information in it. So I'm not knocking the audiobooks. It's the results you get, right? We're talking about outcomes. Are you getting the outcomes you desire, right? Same thing with fitness. You talk about health and fitness, which I know a lot of guys can relate to. Most all diets work. It's just, is it the right one for you? And are you working it properly coming through? So what are the things that you're hearing from some of these guys?
well, yeah, I think that that's spot on. It's so many of them. Like, I've read the Five Love Languages books, and now I know mine is physical touch and hers is gifts. And so I've gone out and I've bought her all these gifts. And, she said, thank you, but why aren't the dishes done? And I'm like, going around and around. And, guys will say, well, we were just getting ready to buy the new house. And so now I've finally gotten the other side of buying the new house. And she was really happy for a couple of months. And now it's right back into, well, the kids are, why aren't you spending more time with the kids? Why aren't you at home more? And so a lot of what I see with these guys, it's just like you were saying, it's like when you're sick, right? Like when you've got that like strep throat, congestion, whatever it may be, you can go to WebMD, right? Like you can watch a YouTube video on natural remedies for this, that, or the other. But like at some point when it's been 2, 3, 4 months, a year of dealing with that cough, dealing with that sore throat, what do? We go to the doctor, right? We go to the doctor, we get the diagnosis, and then we begin to allow them to provide us with the steps forward to get us well, right? And then it's like, boom, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, like, oh, I'm in a better place. And it's because we went to an expert and they were there to properly give us the diagnosis and help us move forward. And ultimately, too, like they'll give you that accountability, right? I want to see you back here in a week. I want to see your progress. I want to see that you're doing what you need to be doing. And for a lot of guys, it's really tough to take that step to say, I don't have the answers here, right? Because most of the men that we talk to are business owners or high level executives. You have gotten to where you are because you've been able to be presented with a problem and find the solution. And so there's a lot of frustration, guilt, and shame around, I'm doing it everywhere else in my life, but why can't I do it here?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the funny thing about that, right? The analogy you use about having the cough, right? It starts off as a cough. What I think a lot of, and I know somebody who's got this, is they cough all the time and they don't even realize it anymore. So when they initially started getting a cough, it was super irritating, right? They hated it. All of these things, it'll go away on its own. And then eventually it doesn't. It just gets them used to it, it's something that they're used to living with, and they just accepted it subconsciously to a certain level. And it's until you get rid of that cough that you don't realize, wow, how much better my life is, because I'm just so used to it.
Yeah, right. I mean, so many conversations that I have with guys will start out with, how are you? Where are you right now? Like, oh, we're pretty good. Like, we're on the phone, so I'm guessing that may not be exactly where you're at, and as we unpack it, it's like, it's not good, but this is where we've been and I'm coping, right? Like I've got things in my life that are helping me to stay busy, to stay distracted, to not have to deal with this big elephant in the room that's sitting over here. Like, I just don't want to acknowledge it because it's big and it's hurtful. And like, I get it. Like, it sucks. But like you're saying, would you rather continue to live with the cough, or would you rather lean into actually solving this and then never having to come back here again? And for a lot of guys, that can be a really difficult choice, right? Because now I understand how to cope with the, right? Like, I've lowered my standards to be okay. I'm the guy with the cough. That's fine. Right. But that's not where we want to be.
No, not at all. Not at all. And the worst standard is when you don't even realize you're the guy with the cough anymore. Right. And that's where a lot of guys fall into problems in this area of relationships, but all areas. In the area of relationship in particular is, they don't realize it's a problem until the divorce papers are in front of them, or the wife's telling them, or they check their wife's phone or whatever it is and seeing the messages from the new boyfriend or whoever else it may be. And that's where it's like, it's not another audiobook that's going to help you here. That's just not the case. You got to start it's like going to the doctor and having a heart attack. The doctor saying, look, unless you change your diet today, not tomorrow, today, you're going to die. Right. And that's a place where a lot of guys find themselves. What's funny, Ryan, and I want to hear about this from you, is I just got a call with a guy that helps us out in the movement. And we were talking about it. And we were talking about how there's so much shame around this, as you mentioned, right? Especially in the relationship category. And guys just don't talk about it yet. We can all kind of relate to these things that are happening. And because there's so much shame around it, guys don't want to admit that there's a problem because they've equated it to, I'm not good enough or something along those lines. A lot of guys don't raise their hands and step forward and really actually talk about it and say, hey, here's an issue here. I want to get this issue solved. I want to get it solved as quick as possible. So this is what's going on. What do I need to do?
Yeah. And, oftentimes, I mean, whether you want to call it a blessing or a curse, like I will tell you guys, like, I get it. Like, I get that this hurts, and this probably hurts more than almost anything else in your life. And for these guys, we talk a lot around here about leaning into irritation, right? Leaning into agitation, because in life, oftentimes we we find ourselves, something agitates us. So what do? We run away from it, right? Like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that annoying employee, right? I'm just going to go away from that. Or I'm going to, my health is not where I want it to be. So like, I'm just going to avoid the gym. I'm just not even going to go there because it's just disappointing. And so for these guys, I think, to encourage you forward, like, if you're listening to this, why is that? Like, why are you here? Right? If your relationship isn't where you want it to be, like, cool, what are you doing to solve it? And be honest with yourself, right? Am I actually doing anything, or am I, I talked to a guy yesterday and his response was like, I've been hoping for a year that it would just go away.
Mhm.
Right? I wanted to not pursue it because I just hoped that we would fix it. And for a lot of guys that come to us, when I talk to them, they're so helpless, again, because they've tried so many things on their own, and they've oftentimes been focusing on the wrong problem. Right. And so it's like, the house needs painted, but you got some hammer and some nails. Right. So you just start hammering away and hammering away. Well, like, you look up and you put 20 nails in the side of the house and it's not painted. Well, it's like, you don't have the right tools, right? You're not trying to solve the right problem here.
Yeah. Well, it's just not taught, right? At least it wasn't taught to me. And you start grasping at straws and trying to figure out how to fix the situation. And I felt like when I was, in this situation in my marriage early on, there weren't the tools there, and I just got frustrated, right? I got frustrated. I tried all kinds of things. Okay, if I do more around the house, great, right? Then she'll be happy. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, well, if I do this, then this will work out. I just got frustrated, especially when in every other area I felt like I was excelling, like I was crushing it, and this area sucked, and it actually brought those other areas down over time.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the same for me. And, I tell the guys all the time, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
Right. Like, remove the shame from the situation, because this isn't on you. Like, we live in an era which the divorce rate is 50, 60% or more. And so even if you're lucky enough to have a dad in the house, that doesn't equate to how many people are staying together. Because I talk to a lot of guys, right? Just talked to a guy yesterday, 38 years old, and he is content to live in this broken marriage till he dies.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, how many marriages out there are like that? We're like, cool, we're together, but we're not together. Right? So is it 60, 70, 80% of bad examples out there, or just no example? Definitely not taught it in school. Definitely, don't understand this. So like, when you're feeling that shame, it's because as men, we are fixers. That's what often makes us so good in business. That's what makes us so good in our health, is because we're able to problem solve. And here, you've never been taught this. You've never been given the tools. And so you're like stabbing around in the dark, desperately trying to find your way out. And you don't have a compass or a light or the tools to get you out.
Yeah. And then we start lying to ourselves. Like this guy you just mentioned, he's full of shit, right? All with due respect, and I've been there, is him saying, well, I'm content in my relationship. I'll go. He wouldn't have been on the phone call with you, right? So deep down, he knows he's not happy. He knows he's not content, yet he's lying to himself to make him, it's like soothing, right? I soothe my child. It's like, he's lying to himself to soothe the pain and make it easier. And it's in that it's really sad for a lot of guys and men, because that becomes the repetition, right? You start soothing in other areas of your life. You start being, okay, this is good enough. This is good enough. And you start living a life of quiet desperation, right? One of the things we talk about, Ryan, I know you've talked about this too, is the idea of the concept of choose your heart, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to fix your marriage if it's not working, right? But it's hard to be in a marriage that isn't working. Choose your heart. Which one are you going to do? They're both going to be tough, but if you just stay in a marriage that sucks, it's tough, but you end up with a marriage that's shitty if your wife sticks around. If you work on your marriage yourself, that's tough, but the outcome potentiality is huge. Like the risk reward relationship with choose your heart is just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And I think you hit on something super important there, something that I bring up to guys on the call. They're like, I'm miserable. It's been this way for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. And, I am content to just deal with it. I'm committed. Like, cool. Is your wife committed?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Good point.
80% of divorces are started by the wife.
Yep.
Right? So like, I love that you're committed to just being miserable. Like, I love the commitment. Like, I think that's insanity in its own right. But like, I love a man of commitment. And if you're miserable, most of these men can tell that their wife is miserable. Right? She's always yelling. She's always upset. She's always stressed. I can never do what's right. I can tell. Some guys will say, my wife has become bipolar. My wife has become,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I'm guessing she doesn't want to live that life either. And how do you know that she is committed to misery as you are?
Yep. No.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, it's interesting. It's funny if you're listening to this, and I was in a situation where I thought it was all my wife's fault too. We all think, yeah, she's crazy, and maybe she is. But the funny thing is, guys, listening to this, and I know it's not you listening to this, but for me it was, is you turn that mirror around. It was me that was crazy thinking that it was her the issue, and didn't have anything to do with me. When you're looking at that.
Yeah, like if you take a look at your relationship, was there a time that things were great? Right, the sex was amazing. We were connected. We had so much fun. We were laughing. We were giggling, and all. Okay, cool. So like clearly there was a time where you had this figured out, right? There was a time where like whatever that crazy was, you loved it, right? Like you loved her brand of crazy, and so now instead of, because again, like we want to push it off, right? We want to put it off on someone else, or we just don't want to look at it at all. It's spot on, right? Take a look at yourself and be like, okay, could it be that as the leader in the family, as the man, as the masculine, what am I not seeing here? What am I bringing to the table that's causing this? Am I happy? Am I a joy to be around? Do I genuinely give her my attention? Like there's so many things that you can look into, but you get to choose your hard, because looking in the mirror is hard.
Yeah, and it is, right? But again, choose your hard, right? Where's the outcome of just staying in the same position and the one I see the most, Ryan, in this situation, and it's something that I've worked on over the past decade, really, is being on the fence, right? When you're on the fence, like, should I, shouldn't I? That's the worst place to be, right? Either accept, cool, I'm not going to do anything in my marriage. I'm not going to make it better. I'm going to live this life of quiet desperation. It's going to be shitty. My kids are going to grow up having a shitty role model, basically. Or I'm going to put in the work, put in the time, and put in the necessary resources to make a shift. One way or the other, it's going to happen, right? And again, they're both hard. The sitting on your fence part is the absolute worst. You're in no man's land.
Right. It's forever, right? Like you will live there forever, and your kids will see that forever. Like that becomes the standard, the expectation. That's what they look for in another person. And then you get the double torture of watching them live it as well.
Yeah. Well, we get to hear about some of our guys that are a little more seasoned, let's say, in life, at the age, is they'll talk about that often is, your son will use you as a role model of either what to emulate, more than likely, that's usually the case, or it could be an exact opposite. He hates your guts and doesn't want to be anything like you. Your daughter is going to marry a man that treats her like you treat your wife, has the love and relationship and the sex life and everything else like you have with your wife, right? So that's where it gets really, the rubber meets the road for a lot of these guys, right? When we talk about them, especially if you've got those guys that have been through an alpha reset. Love you guys. I know a lot of you guys listen to this still. They get a really clear picture of what it's going to be like for their kids, right? If you don't do this for yourself, guys, staying in a shitty marriage is not worth it. But if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And essentially what we're saying is look lost. right? And don't just look at what it's costing you,
Hmm.
right? Look at the whole cost of being in this marriage, right? Often guys come to us and they'll say, I want to save my marriage. And I'm like, that's great. That doesn't get to be where your focus needs to be, right? Like your focus, like what is the problem within your marriage that gets to be solved? And you're exactly right. When you begin to count the cost of it, cool. I'm miserable. I'm overweight. I'm stressed. I work too much. Even when I win, I feel like I'm losing. I don't like the guy that I see in the mirror. Great. My wife, she is stressed, overwhelmed, working too hard, feels invalued, doesn't think that I love her. There's no relational connection. Cool. My daughter, like this happened for me. One of the things that came up for me in my process of going through the activation method and alpha reset and all of that was my daughter brought me a picture one day. She was 3 years old, could barely talk, right? Like she's just beginning to speak. And she brings me this picture. And, it was like one of the first pictures she ever brought me. She brings it to me. And as she hands it to me, she goes, I know it's not very good, but I wanted you to have this. And it was like, like, what? Like at 3, like I saw myself in that, right? She is just absorbing the way that I talk about myself to my wife, to the people in my life. And she just doesn't know any better.
Yep.
And I'm done. Like I will not have daughters that live in this constant fear of being seen, fear of not being good enough. Like will not have it. But that was a cost of where I was.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story, and I won't say the guy's name, but there's a guy that joined the program, and for different reasons. So it actually his real reason wasn't to save his marriage, although anyway, it wasn't. But his worry of just spending money, right, was one of his things. And the scared of the unknown is probably the real cause for this guy. And the trigger for him was his kids, right? He saw his kids at a very young age. I can't remember the age. It was 3 or 4, maybe a little bit older, with severe anxiety. And they were mimicking exactly the anxiety that he had. That his wife grabbed the credit card when he was on the phone and read it off the numbers for him because he was so in this shock stage. That guy went on to be named the brother's brother. So the brother's brother, for those that don't know, Ryan has received this award. It's only given out 2 times a year, and it's for guys that are going through the program, and is voted by other men in the program and alumni that are currently in the program get to vote for this. So it's not voted for by me or the other coaches or members. It's voted strictly by their peers. So all the men weigh in. This guy won it. Ryan, you've won it as well, which is fantastic and well deserved. But it goes to show you that, your kids are always watching. I see that with my son and my daughter now, right? They say the craziest things. I'm like, where did they learn that from? Especially in this time of the pandemic, right? I know exactly where they learned it from. They learned it from dad. And,
Right.
and if those aren't all positive traits that you want to pass on to your kids, then it's time to break the familial chain of whatever that is and allow your kids to see a different opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they are sponges, right? And just you can't make them not be, right? That's not something that we get to choose. We just get to choose what they absorb, right? And they absorb some of like our interactions with them, but they absorb a whole lot more of the interactions we have with other people, right? Ooh, this is how dad talks to mom. This is how dad talks to his friends. This is how dad talks to himself, right? They're just, okay, great. That's how I should react, right? And this doesn't happen on the surface, right? This is like subconscious, like in their human, like deep inside. And so, yeah, again, guys, like, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I mean, the value of counting the actual cost of all the areas in your life, add that up, write them down, and then ask yourself, is this a price I'm willing to pay for not taking action? I get that you don't see the full picture of things. I get that it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? You can't see behind the curtain, and that's frustrating and can be concerning and all that. And I get that. And you can see the curtain of your own life. You do get behind the scenes look at your own life. And are you willing to continue to pay the cost and putting the cost of your life onto others? And if not, then unless you're just okay with being that guy, you get to make a shift. You get to create an action here from what you're seeing.
Absolutely, 100%. Ryan, I mean, you always deliver so much value. Guys, you're getting a taste of, this wasn't our goal here. Ryan just wanted to get on the podcast and the show, but you're getting a taste of what it's like to talk to one of the advisors. Again, they're all alumni. Ryan even won the Brothers Brother Award, totally changed his career. And when he's not on the beach in Florida with his family, he's talking to guys just like you, just trying to help them out and get them in the right direction and let them know what the program that we offer is all about going through. And you guys, if you get on the phone with him, ask him how he ended up on the beaches of Florida. Fantastic story that I'm sure Ryan would share with you guys. And you may probably even shared it on a previous podcast that we did. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, if you get a chance to share it, I do, for sure.
Yeah, it's a great story, man. Well, you're a great guy. Ryan, what are one or two things these guys can do if they find themselves resonating with this situation?
Yeah, so I think number one is always getting a clear picture of where you're actually at. So I think that is, again, guys, you will always hear me say, slow down to go faster, right? We get running so fast that we don't take time to really stop and see where we're at. And so I think in this analogy, it's time for you to slow down. And I would write out just at the top of a piece of paper, cost, right? What is it costing me? And then write it out for yourself. Write it out for what you think it's costing your wife. Write it out for what you think is costing your kids. You want to go deeper? What's it costing your business? How much money is it per week, per month, per year to live in this state, right? Have this sheet of. The second thing is answer a very simple question. Is this a cost I'm willing to pay? If it's yes, fantastic, right? Then continue down the path that you're on and you're good. If it's no, then make a commitment with yourself. I will take action from here, right? You'll hear us say all the time, like, I don't care what you join. I don't care where you go. And I know based on my experience, based on literally living it, that this is transformational stuff, that this is not just marriage saving, but it is rectifying, life altering, health saving, like geographical changing life stuff. And so stop trying to solve these problems that on your own that you don't have solutions for. Go to the doctor. That would be my advice is cost. Am I willing to pay it? Do I need to go to the doctor?
Two amazing points. And guys, as always, I remember myself, I used to just listen to podcast or YouTube video after YouTube video without actually taking action. And I heard someone talking about this that specializes in sports performance, Ryan. What they were saying is it's easy to have theory, right? So American football, it's easy to have a theory on how to tackle somebody, right? But if someone's running at you full speed and they hit you and you have the theory, that's a very different experience from stepping onto the field of play. And so guys, we're inviting you here, and you'll hear me say, do the work, show up, don't use this as educational masturbation, all these things, but it's really step on the field, right? Do the two things that Ryan said, and play out, play full out. Most of you guys are ex-athletes. Play full out like this is the game winner. This is your life. It's your shot at it. Man, Ryan, as always, bud, it's always great talking to you. I have the privilege to be able to talk to you regularly, but I love everybody else getting that same opportunity. You're an amazing guy, and I appreciate everything that you do for the other men and for the movement and for myself and my family. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, and definitely the feeling is mutual. And guys, yeah, I'm excited for the conversations that I'm going to get to have with you guys. And so, yeah, do the work. Hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon. And, you can always find me on Facebook, inside the Powerful Man page as well. I'm always happy to jump on a call and talk to you guys or have a quick conversation back and forth. So hopefully we'll connect soon.
Yeah, that's a great one. So guys, if you want to find Ryan, just go over to the Facebook page. It's the easiest thing, the Facebook group. It's the power. Just do a search for The Powerful Man. You'll find the group. And you can go ahead and grab Ryan in there. There's a lot of great conversations going on there as well. And coming up, by the time you guys are listening to this, we're going to have a whole series for the month of March. So you guys want to be in there and be active as much as possible. So gentlemen, as always, appreciate your time. Have an amazing week and take some action. And we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.